Japanese researchers recently tore apart a BYD Seal. The Seal sedan, it has cell-to-pack battery technology. Basically, BYD saw what Tesla were doing with the Model Y, the structural battery pack. They said, let's do the same thing, which was a good move. They claim they've done it better. The Japanese say BYD has now surpassed Tesla when it comes to making electric cars in reference to the design and the way they're actually put together. I'm not saying I agree with this, but here's what Japanese experts said after they tore apart a BYD Seal. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. It's great to see you. Thank you for tuning in. Just want to say a big shout out, big thank you to everyone who has supported our campaign. That's my GoFundMe campaign for my wife's cancer. She has stage 4 colorectal cancer and so-called incurable. So we've been sort of on a campaign to help her fight that this year. So it's come down by about 50%. And ultimately, that's really thanks to you guys. I couldn't have afforded the treatment she's gone through. So thank you so much for your donations. If you're new to the channel and you want to know more about what I'm talking about, I'll put a link in the description. BYD, the Seal. It's a sedan. It doesn't sell that well in comparison to BYD's other models in China, probably because the sedan market is just crowded and saturated in China. Either way, it will be a global electric car. It's going to be on sale in Australia pretty soon. It's going to be on sale across a number of right-hand drive countries and in Europe as well by the end of this year. Should you buy one over a Tesla Model 3? Well, that really depends, because I think we'll find the goalposts have been moved once again. The new Model 3, the Highland model, will be using the new LMFP battery technology from CATL, which should improve range by around 15%. Plus the batteries are bigger. It's going to be an interesting game to compare the new Highland versus the Seal. However, after BYD took apart Corollas in the recent past, they learned what Toyota was doing to build cars, how to do it efficiently, how to do it in a way that made sense. But then what they did is they basically said, well, okay, let's see what Toyota's doing. Let's see what Tesla is doing. Let's combine the best of both worlds. Very, very smart, if you ask me. It's sort of like saying, well, hey, let's take the best two that we know of and let's make both of them better. Combine them together. That's basically what the Japanese are saying BYD have done, which is quite a surprise to many people. So, the biggest publishing house in Japan, called Nikkei BP, who have apparently engineers that actually work for them, has bought a BYD Seal electric car, taken it apart completely in order to understand the process of the Chinese manufacturer that will lead the world of EVs in the future. That's what they say. They say, I mean, this is pretty controversial stuff in Japan. The Japanese are obviously getting very concerned that they're falling behind with EVs, because they have, and there's no way to hide their heads in the sand anymore. Basically, the Japanese media now are turning against the Japanese automotive industry because it's basically controlled and dominated by Toyota. If you look at the structure and the hierarchy, you'll find the president of the Japanese automotive industry has pretty much always been the president of Toyota. Strange coincidence. Well, you see my point here. Toyota has a lot of power in Japan, politically, economically, in many ways. So now the Japanese media are saying, Toyota, you've led us down a hole to hell, which is true. They're absolutely right. They've said this a few times. Toyota, you are leading Japan's economy into the toilet. And sorry, but this is a fact. I mean, Japan's economy, it is more reliant upon its automotive industry than any economy in the history of the planet. And it's not even close. The other problem is Japan has more debt than any country in the history of the world. Think about Zimbabwe when they try to print themselves out of debt. That's what Japan is trying to do now, but it won't work, unfortunately. Therefore, basically the media in Japan are doing their best to try to get the automotive companies in Japan to modernize, to change, to build EVs as quickly as possible. I think they feel like it's falling on deaf ears, but at least they're trying. They're saying, hey, look at BYD, please do what they're doing, because they have just surpassed Tesla. That's what they're claiming. Now, apparently they've taken it apart piece by piece. You can pay, I think, about $7,000 or $8,000 US to find the full report, which will be released on the 15th of September. Obviously, they're trying to target OEMs big car companies to say, okay, we want to see what you did. Show us what the difference was between a BYD, a Tesla, and a Toyota. And there's some big differences. For one, Toyota doesn't have a dedicated EV production line. Therefore, they don't have a dedicated EV chassis or dedicated EV production car at all. I mean, the BZ4X is actually intended to be a combination of things, whether that's a hybrid, plug-in hybrid, or an EV. So the Seal, thoroughly disassembled complete edition is what it's called. You can buy that for, like I said, for around $7,000 or $8,000. The manual consists of 350 pages of disassembly photos, component explanations, and repair guidelines. It is priced at a price that clearly is targeting decision makers and OEMs, according to notebookcheck.net. Japan has a history of doing dismantling operations to gauge where a competing nation stands. Just like BYD was taking apart Toyotas and Hondas in the dawn of its gas-powered vehicle production era. In fact, BYD didn't just take apart Toyotas and Hondas, they took apart Mercedes S-Class vehicles as well to try and re-engineer them. They didn't have any luck with that, but they did try. Apparently back in 2012, the CEO, Wang Shanfu of BYD, he doesn't have a whole lot of spare cash. He goes, buys a new Mercedes S-Class, drives it back to the factory, says to his engineers, take it apart piece by piece, re-engineer it. They look at him and like, you've got to be crazy. That's a $250,000 car. We're not going to take that thing apart. You just bought it. It's brand new. He takes out his keys, scratches the hell out of the car. He goes, it's not new anymore. Take it apart. They do. Well, BYD learnt their lesson. Not only did they do that to a Mercedes, they did that to a Tesla Model Y and a Model 3 and every Tesla that's ever been made. Interestingly, all the way back in 2003, Nikkei BP from Japan released a lengthy car industry analysis that concluded that China was 10 years behind Japan in automotive know-how. 10 years behind. Well, they've now completely changed that statement. The tables have turned, according to Japan, and BYD has, in their minds, even surpassed Tesla to become the world's largest EV maker. Even though that's not technically true, they do sell more plug-in hybrids. If you include those in the number, yes, it's true. If you are looking at EVs only, Tesla does still hold the lead. But in taking apart the Seal, which is a direct Model 3 competitor, they looked at what makes it tick, what makes it work. And after examining the cell to pack, which is a structural battery chassis technology with an integrated BYD Blade battery, which is a lithium iron phosphate battery, the design, and looking at the other components, they came away believing that BYD has surpassed Tesla to become the world's #1 EV manufacturer, and that BYD has the foresight to lead the world standard in design. I cannot verify whether or not they have taken apart a new version or a newish version of the Tesla Model Y to compare it to the Seal. Because of course, that might be the more relevant comparison, considering as all Model Ys have structural battery packs being made in Texas. They also have gigapressors making the structural parts of the car. And that is a huge advantage that I believe Tesla still holds over its competitors. Nikkei BP has done similar disassembly manuals for Tesla vehicles though, as well as other EVs. So it could be a good basis for comparison, potentially. A Toyota executive recently said its engineers took apart a Model Y and came away amazed at the genius level of efficiency that Tesla has used to build the Model Y, with barely a redundant component in sight. Now, Toyota, Honda, and other Japanese automakers that are transitioning to the EV era somewhat slowly, some would say way too slowly, can look at the BYD Seal to look at how things should be done, potentially. Now, there is one big problem with the BYD Seal, and I've spoken to journalists personally, privately, who have commented on this issue. In fact, BYD themselves are very well aware of a big problem with the BYD Seal. That's coming in a new video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.